I chatted with this Philly sports talk radio legend 5 or 6 weeks ago, and we had such a good time, we decided to do it again. Part of the reason for doing it this week, his terrific new book, Loud, is now officially available. We'll talk more about that book, that wild Eagles overtime win over the Bills, and more. Making a return visit to Philly Pressbox Radio, it's Angelo Cataldi. Angelo, welcome.
Chet, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, first thing, and as the Hall of Famer Ray Didinger noted in the foreword to your book, after a devastating loss or a crazy win, a lot of fans would say, I can't wait to hear what Angelo has to say tomorrow morning. Well, this past Sunday, for the second straight week, the Eagles played a god-awful first half, but somehow found a way to get the W. What would you have said Monday morning if you still had your show?
Well, let me start by saying this, Chet. You don't pay as well as WIP did, So I used to get paid for doing this, but I can't deny when I woke up, I said to myself, what would I say? I was so frustrated for pretty much 3/4 of the game.
Yep.
So I think I would do this. I would start by gushing over Jalen Hurts, because this is a guy, the reason they're 10-1 is he just won't lose. He refuses to lose. And even when he's playing a dog of a game, the way he did more than just the first half, you would say to yourself, well, he's just having an awful day. They're going to lose. Then he just lights it up. Fourth quarter and overtime, brilliant. Great throws, great decisions. The run for the game-winning touchdown. So I would do about 10 minutes of gushing on Hurts. Then I do about 3 more minutes on Elliott, because I don't know how he made that kick, Chet. It was raining. The wind was blowing against him. He kicks it low, knowing it could be blocked, but that's the only way to get it there. And he got it there with 5 yards to spare. That guy is amazing. So then I would do all that. And then the rest of the show, which would be like 3 hours and 45 minutes, I would bitch about how you can't trust the defense. The offensive play calling stinks. And I still don't think they're going too far, because they haven't proven they're as good as they were last year, even though their record's even better. They are a bizarre team. I also got this up when they said that Lane Johnson was not going to play.
Yeah.
In the back of my mind, I already registered it as a loss, because their record without Johnson, I think it's 11-22 now since he came onto the team. But they got that figured out too. The first half, that offensive line, if you'd have told me it was one of the strengths of the team, I would have told you were nuts. And then in the fourth quarter, with the game on the line, Jason Kelce gets 2 penalties for flinching, and after the game acknowledges they were the right calls. And you go, well, how is if Kelce isn't going to get you there in the final minutes, who is? Jalen Hurts is. And Jalen Hurts did it again. And I'm in awe of him. Chet, he's my favorite Eagle quarterback of all time.
I believe you. Hey, let's get back to the book. You dedicated your book to the fans, specifically, quote, the loud, proud Philadelphia sports fans who welcomed me into their world for 33 magical years. You did an entire chapter on them in the book. Eagle Shirley, Jason, Butch from Manayunk. Some very interesting stuff about Butch, by the way. Arson, Arnie, and among your fans and devoted listeners, a guy named Kenny from the Dirty 30. Tell us about Kenny Justice and what happened with him just over 2 years ago.
One of the reasons I wrote the book, the number one reason I wrote the book, because let me tell you, I ain't getting rich doing it. The fans, their passion works both ways, and people don't understand that. So, yeah, they did. I've got lots of stories about how crazy these fans were and the nutty stuff they did, because I was there for a lot of it. But I also have stories about how their passion works in a positive way, how when WIP held a radiothon, we reached our goal every single year because they were so generous, because they always stood up. In the case of Kenny Justice, that's the ultimate example. One of the very last years I was at WIP, he called in and he was telling a story. He was ripping the Eagles for something. And then I asked him where he was going. He said he was going for kidney dialysis because his kidneys were failing. And if he didn't get a transplant in the next couple of years, he probably wasn't going to be there to see his kids grow up. I just put it out there. At the end, he just gave a number to call. And between then and 10 o'clock, less than 2 hours, 28 people called to sign up as organ donors. And as a result of those calls, Kenny Justice got a kidney transplant and is now healthy and doing great. And that's the part of the story I want people to understand. Yeah, we're nuts, but we have big voices and bigger hearts. And the heart never gets talked about. The voices and all the antics, that's what they get. I don't expect miracles here. The narrative isn't going to change. The lazy national media will always blame us for every incident. But people who know these fans understand the other side of it, which is, I think, even more important. They're there when you need them.
And I love the fact that the first words Kenny taught his son were "Dallas sucks."
Oh, believe me. And I got to tell you, Chet, I've been, I saw you at the book signing in where was it, Malton on Saturday.
Yes.
And some people are having me write something even worse than Dallas sucks in the book. They're going even further. And you know what I say to that? The FCC isn't looking at me anymore. If that's what they want, I'll give it to them. What the heck? Couldn't say it on the air, though.
Angelo, some casual listeners probably thought you and your WIP crew just showed up in the morning and had some fun talking sports and joking around, but I know how very much work goes into a daily 4-hour talk show. Your old pal Mike Missinelli called you the hardest working, most organized guy he knows. How much work did go into a daily show as successful as yours was?
All right, just understand, Chet, the reason why I did that much prep is I never was secure. I was not a broadcaster. I was afraid that I would have nothing to say at some point. So I had these copious notes every day to make sure I never ran out of stuff. But I had a formula that was 2 hours of prep for 1 hour on the air. So in a 4-hour show, which was normally what we had, I would need to do 8 hours. So
Wow.
what I would do is the first few hours, I'd take a break after a show, and then like 1 or 2 o'clock, I'd start on the internet looking for stories I could use the next day, because you can't just go with 1 or 2 stories. You need a whole bunch of them. And then that would take me up into like dinner time. And then I would go to bed super early, get up at 2:30, catch up on any of the games that had happened overnight, and go from 2:30 to 6, prepping the show again with all the materials at hand, all the different things I was going to use. So it was about a 12-hour day. There were days that were a little easier. There were days that were harder. Like if you were on a remote, it took even longer to be ready because there was a lot of extra elements to incorporate. But it took a long time. People do have this impression that you walk in at 6 o'clock in the morning and then just hit the buttons and all the callers are waiting for you. No, first of all, you tend to have to earn the callers by being interesting, provocative. Not on a Monday after an Eagles game. They call no matter what. But 90% of the time, you have to have some sort of an insight that gives them reason to call you and to talk to you and maybe to argue with you, maybe to laugh with you. But it's all different elements for every show. And I always used to say, when you got them all together, you like threw them in a big pot, and it was like a soup. And you just swirled around and kept everything in play as long as you could. And if it all went well, they'd let you come back and do it again tomorrow.
All right, I got to ask you about this, Angelo. In January of 2020, WIP did an Andy Reid Appreciation Day. Your morning show did not participate. To quote from your book, Andy Reid is a loser and a liar. You wrote that about a guy who's won 2 Super Bowls in the last 3 or 4 years. Explain yourself, Angelo.
I would like to correct you on the 2 Super Bowls. Those were won, despite him, by Mr. Patrick Mahomes. Okay, let's clear that up first of all. Second of all, this is just me, I guess, but we're very provincial in this town. And in this town, if you didn't win it for us, why do I care that you won it for Kansas City? What good does that do me? So here's what I look at. 14 shots at it when he was the coach of the Eagles, 0 for 14. That's a loser to me, all right? A liar, I don't have to worry about having to justify that. Anybody that heard any of his news conferences know that's true. He wouldn't answer a straight question with a gun at his head. So I stand by it. And here's where I'm different from a lot of people when they retire, Chet. When the people retire, they mellow and they want to make amends with all the people I had feuds with. I have no desire or interest in that. I would like to go to my grave There's a chapter called Enemies for Life, and I would like to hate them. My last words would be, Gabe Kapler is a jackass. That would be a nice moment.
All right. Well, Angelo, like the Eagles this past Sunday, we're playing overtime now. So let's do a little thing called 3 and Out. I'm going to give you three topics. Give me 20 to 30 seconds on each of these.
Okay.
Number one, you were extremely popular during your 33 years on WIP and at the same time despised by many. There was a 2010 Bleacher Report article that began, Angelo Cataldi is an idiot, a jackass, if you will. And then it went on from there. How did
I
you
agree,
deal
by the way. They were correct. Go ahead.
Well, how did you deal with the haters?
Here's exactly how I dealt with it, because I did have some websites and things like that. And many times in the course of a show, I would point out how wrong I was, how stupid I was. We took no prisoners, including ourselves. We went after each other all the time. Those things, there was a lot of accuracy to what they were saying. Here's the key. Never, ever on the air acknowledge them. That's how they win. All right? Websites, people like that. The minute you mention them, you're giving them what they set out to do. Free publicity. Don't do it. I never in any of the time there went after my bashers because there was no point to it except to help them. So I didn't. Now, if somebody said something nice, I might spend half a show on that.
Well, here's something
but not
nice.
a basher. Not a basher.
Number two, I love the great sports debate. Give me a favorite memory from that terrific early 1990s great sports debate TV show. Because when Glenn Macnow had hair, by the way.
Yeah, that's how far back we went. End of season one. Everybody back then was having big cliffhanger shows. So in the final show of the first season, with Al's dog Fenway as part of our crew that day, I staged my own shooting. At the very end of it, it's in the Best of Great Sports Debate tape, and I had a gun come out right under the camera, and I had a blood pack right near my heart. And believe it or not, even though it's campy as heck, the gun shoots out, and I smash my face, and I go back, and I die. Stay tuned next season. Now, there's only one problem with that play. We taped it on a Monday. Tuesday morning, I had a radio show. So if there was anybody out there who thought I survived, they would know pretty quickly I didn't. But it was fun. That thing we put together was part of the unpredictable, campy nature of what we did, because at that point, none of us really knew what we were doing on television. It was so much fun.
Number three, you were nominated for a Pulitzer Prize for your 1986 story about Buddy Ryan and his lies and unkept promises, but you didn't win, and you said that was the best thing for your media career. Why so?
Because, first of all, the thing that I got a finalist for was really not right. I ripped apart the first half of Buddy Ryan's first season because I held him accountable for all the things he had said when he went to Philadelphia. And I never took into account what he was really doing, which was building up a fan base the way it had never been built up before. So I held him accountable. I was right. All that stuff he said was not true. But he won because he got more people to love that football team. And if I had won it, and somebody told me that I was in the running there for a while, if I had won it, I wouldn't have been able to go on the radio. I wouldn't have been able to do what I did, because once you're that, you are a serious journalist for life. And it was at that moment I was actually planning an exit from serious journalism in an attempt to make serious money. And so it wouldn't have worked out. I would have never done it. The whole track of my career would have been entirely different.
Well, it certainly did work out extremely well for you, Angelo. An amazing career. And now this fantastic book, Loud, which I'm about a third of the way through, by the way. Really enjoying it. I got my copy, as you mentioned, when I visited with you at the Marlton Chickies on Saturday. Great to meet Eagle Shirley and your lovely wife, Gail, by the way. And you've got a bunch of additional book signings coming up. There's some of them on the screen right there. Between now and Christmas, folks, go to one of these signings, pick up a book. I promise you will enjoy it. More details about those and other book signings on this guy's website, angelocataldi.com. Angelo, thanks so much for visiting with us here on Philly Pressbox Radio. A second time in 6 weeks. Best of luck with the book and happy holidays.
Anybody that wants an inscription, if you go to the website, I'll write down whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Yours wasn't all that tawdry, but a lot of them are. Chet, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.